Hello again and welcome. As a result of me revisiting the Beginner's Guide series, I've decided to add an extra element to it, if you like, and touch on the basic safety needs, in my opinion. It's not a definitive guide, it's just what I personally feel is necessary to work in the safest environment that we can. I'm not part of the safety police. I firmly believe that everybody is responsible for their own personal protection, but there are certain things that need to be pointed out, and it just helps you make an informed decision. And this is really aimed at the beginner or the newer turner, because quite a few elements aren't really taken seriously enough, and it's just my way of putting across my points of view. Before we get into that, I'd just like to make a quick couple of mentions. One to Wayne Bigfoot, Bigfoot Woodcraft, and Wayne has sent me a sticker. Thank you, Wayne. And I think he's on Instagram. Well, he is on Instagram, I know that, and any other social media. I'll put links in the description below. Now, my old mate Graham Light, he also has got a couple of stickers he sent me. Thanks for that, Graham. I'll stick them up as usual. Graham also has recently started a website, and basically I'll put links to Graham's Facebook page and his Instagram if he's on Instagram, I'm not sure. And it's basically to give people a view of how to go about selling your wares. I get asked a lot what's the price range, where should you go, what should you do, what should you produce for markets, various craft fairs, etc. And really it's an open-ended question, and Graham addresses a lot of the questions that the newer turner and the person who's looking to sell his wares to fund the hobby, if you like. So I'll put relevant links to Graham's website, and hopefully some interesting and useful information will be gathered there. So that's Graham Light. Thanks to both of you. Now, as far as the newer turner, the beginner's turners, if you like, there are certain things I think that should be addressed, and it is my view, as I say, and I stipulate this and I shan't say it again. One of the main things that people first say is a full face shield. Well, let's look at eye protection separately. I mean, I wear glasses. I don't wear these glasses. I wear an old pair of glasses which are reinforced, which I suggest, if you are a glass wearer, have a second pair of glasses that you use in the workshop, because you'll get bits of CA on it, you'll get all the rubbish you can consider on there, and if you get CA on the lens, you can't clean it off. That's just one thing worth mentioning. Well, eye protection, the very basic requirement in my opinion is a pair of, and they're relatively inexpensive, well, they are inexpensive, the old safety glasses, and they can be worn over glasses like I'm doing now, and on the odd occasion I do a demo, this is the sort of eyewear I wear to cover my eyes. The next important thing, and the items I'm mentioning aren't necessarily in order of preference or priority, I'm just going through them in segments. So, eye protection. The full face shield is obviously an advantage, because it not only covers your eyes, it also covers your face. Now, this is what I would term an entry-level full face shield. While it will protect your eyes, if something comes off the lathe at speed and it's a large piece, it's not going to protect your face as far as your nose is concerned, especially one as long as mine, because what happens is there's absolutely no support, and that's going to go straight into your nose. But it does afford a certain amount of protection. I use this for strimming now, I never use it in the workshop. The next stage up is something similar to the UVEX. Now, the UVEX is a more substantial piece of kit. Now, the advantage of this is that it has reinforcement around the edges here, so if something should hit you there, this comes to your chest So you're still not near your nose. I mean, obviously it depends on the size of piece that comes off, but what I'm saying is that these do offer a much better level of protection. And then finally, the powered respirator, full face shield. I'll go into the dust protection. That fits on, switch on. You not only get really good protection for your face, but you also get air filtration as well through the filters. I'm just making you aware of what is available and what you should do. Even pen turning, some form of eye protection, I feel, is absolutely paramount, because pen turning is 2,500 to 3,000 revs when you're turning a pen. When that flies off, it's like an arrow. So protect your face and your eyes, obviously. So that's something to consider. The next thing, and possibly not more important but as important in every way, is protection against dust. Now when we're actually turning, if you're turning wet wood, etc., there's very little dust being produced, and maybe a dust mask is not necessary. A face mask obviously, but maybe not a dust mask. But as far as dust protection is concerned, what can we do to prevent it getting on our lungs? Well, my opinion, very, very minimum, is a good quality valved reusable face mask. Again, they're relatively inexpensive, and it does save a lot of trouble in the future regarding dust on your lungs. The thing with these is, if you have a beard like I do, their integrity is compromised because you can't get a proper seal. But again, that is better than nothing. I know your beard doesn't filter the dust through, despite some people saying it does. So that is basically the bare minimum. I personally feel that the disposable non-valved ones are next to useless. That's my opinion. The next level up is a more substantial dust mask with, like this trend, with replaceable filters. And this also affords a good level of protection for dust in combination with a full face shield, or indeed safety goggles. And then you go back to our friend the powered respirator, which, as I explained, not only gives you the protection via the built-in filters, it also gives you face protection, and this one also gives you head protection as well. So I'm not endorsing this particular product. Essentially, I've used this for basically 7 years, I would say, and in conjunction with other dust extraction, it's worked extremely well for me. Before we go into the next stage of importance in dust filtration, etc., don't forget your ears. I personally don't wear ear protection when I'm turning. I always do when I'm cutting the grass, when I'm on the bandsaw or table saw, I always do. But when I'm turning, I personally feel that I like to hear what's going on, because the sound of the wood on the lathe, etc., can tell you an awful lot. That is my personal preference. But ear protection is a thing to consider as well. You can either wear the very cheap and effective ear defenders, or indeed you can get the small ones that fit into your ears. I find them a bit uncomfortable, but they still do the job, and it cuts out that harmful level of noise. So don't forget your ears as well. Going back to dust extraction and dust filtration, when you've decided on your type of mask that you're going to be using, if you get a good extraction at the point of developing the dust, i.e. when you're sanding, I've got this, it's a pneumatic. My main mistake was I bought the 53mm pipe, and I should have gone for the 100mm, the 4-inch, but nevertheless I've messed around with it and I've got adequate protection. It does remove the dust very, very well indeed, and it filters down to 0.5 of a micron with the HEPA bags. So it does do it very, very efficiently. So when you're actually sanding, if you place it around the 5 o'clock mark down here, like so, if you're sanding here, then if you're sanding on this side, the dust is being sucked into there, and it does get rid of the majority of the dust that you produce. So not only have you got some form of mask, you've also got this a point of extraction, of production. And then the ultimate, I suppose, is to have some form of air filtration in the rafters. I've got a jet, and it is an entry-level one. It's ideal for the size of my workshop, and you would be surprised at the amount of dust that that filter picks up as well. So I've got my powered respirator on when I'm producing dust. When I'm sanding, I've got my extractor on, and I've got that going as well, and that still picks up the very small airborne particles. So it depends what level you want to go to. When you can, leave the doors and windows open as well to get a nice air circulation in. And one thing, again, my personal advice is, when you've been sanding, and if you're in an enclosed situation, let's say, when you stop sanding, don't take your mask off immediately, because there's still airborne dust. So keep it on for a bit, and if you've got something that's comfortable, you can keep it on for most of the time you're actually in the workshop. My air filtration goes on before I even turn. If I don't turn and I'm doing some other project, that goes on all the time, because there's always bits of dust around, and the wind can lift it and move it into the air again. So the environment is never dust free. So what you want to do is reduce the amount of dust that you're breathing in. So that is obviously an important point as well. The next thing is a very personal view again. Jewellery. You see, I've got a watch, I've got a wedding ring, I've got a ring on my pinky finger, and I wear this horrible magnetic thing occasionally for my arthritis. When I'm turning in the workshop, when I'm doing anything regarding outside work or inside work, all that comes off. I have no watch, no rings, and no jewellery. Again, the chances of getting caught are pretty slim, but if you do, the results can be catastrophic. I won't go into putting up pictures or links to people that have come a cropper with what they call degloving, or catching their arm in the lathe when it's turning, etc. But I'm sure you're all aware of these things that are about for us to look at, and it does make you think. Another thing, when you wear a smock or a sweater, whatever, in the summer we normally have short sleeves, either a t-shirt or a short sleeve smock. If you're wearing a long sleeve smock, like I'm going to start doing shortly, because it's getting a bit colder now, always make sure you've got it completely zipped up, and the sleeves, make sure that you do that with them so there's nothing hanging and loose, because if that catches, again, the chances are pretty remote, but it can happen, and it only needs to happen the once, and the results, as I say, are not very pleasant. That basically covers my thoughts and opinions on what you should do regarding safety. Now, I'm not wanting to be negative and putting people off turning. Let's be realistic about it. We're using machinery. Accidents can happen, and what we need to do is to reduce the risk of those accidents happening. And also, an important point, the type of wood that you're using, the type of wood that you're turning. Some woods have reactions to people and not to others, but there are known woods like yew, even oak and ash, the hardwoods, and especially the exotics. You need to have good respiration when turning those, because they can have adverse effects on your health. And again, I'm not saying don't turn yew, but especially when you're sanding yew, make sure that you've got a good minimum of valve dust mask on, and things like laburnum as well. There are quite a few of the native woods that can cause respiratory problems too. So just take common sense precautions. If you have a doubt that you're doing something wrong or you should be doing something, more often than not that doubt is real and you should be taking evasive action to allay the doubts that you have. Okay, so I think that just about covers it on the very, very basic safety angles. Again, with things like shoes, and I personally don't like coming into the workshop with things like flip-flops or open-top sandals when it's hot, purely and simply because if you drop something on your foot, it's going to hit your skin. There's nothing to protect it. Ideally steel-toed caps or whatever. I very rarely wear those, but I just wear a solid walking boot actually, and that has seen me good over the years I've been turning. So again, that's personal preference. Okay, well hopefully it's of some information for the newer turner and the beginning turner. The more seasoned turners will have their own views, and please feel free to put your opinions in the comments below. Well, in the meantime, turn safely, and thank you very much indeed for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers now.